Welcome back, fuckos. It's your boy, the movie Yeeter, or whatever the fuck I end up calling this piece of shit channel. Anyway, today I'm gonna be talking about probably the best true crime movie of the past decade. And you know what? Fuck it. The best true crime film of the decade, period. This movie takes such a unique story and supplements it with a brilliant new approach that, frankly, I'm surprised more people don't do. I'm getting ahead of myself, though. Today, I'm gonna be sucking the dick of none other than 2018's American Animals, written and directed by Bart Layton. Now, when I first saw this movie back in my college years, I was convinced this was going to become an instant classic among the film bro archetypes. You know, the fuckers who cite Fight Club as the peak of cinema, think Christopher Nolan is the only true director, and have a Pulp Fiction poster hanging in their bedroom. They're essentially the basic bitches of the movie nerd landscape. I thought for sure this movie would catch on. It's got 4 young male leads attempting to do something reckless and ultimately harmful in hopes of fulfilling some macho pipe dreams and making a shit ton of money. I mean, come on, this checks all the boxes. But the main reason most people didn't see this fucker in theaters was because of a little fuck up called moviepass. In case you don't remember moviepass, it was a subscription-based service which allowed users to pay one monthly rate and see as many movies in theaters as they wanted. But of course, these corporate hacks fucked up that genius premise by lowballing the price tag so hard in an effort to gain more subscribers that they ended up millions of dollars in debt, drove its user base away, and closed the fuck down in September of 2019. Actually, if you want to learn more about this bullshit, there's a YouTube channel called Company Man that did a pretty sweet breakdown of all their fuck-ups. So you can click that link in the description or just search for it if I get too lazy to drop it down there, which I will. Anyway, why would I bring this up? Because for a brief second, these asshats tried their hand at producing movies and released 2 motion pictures. One was American Animals, and the other was our Lord and Savior, the greatest Kino ever to be produced on this wretched excuse for a planet, Gotti. Needless to say, MoviePass didn't have the bandwidth or resources to turn either of these into box office hits, and they both tanked miserably. Which is a shame, because I'm about to explain to you, this movie is actually pretty fucking good. Spoiler alert for American Animals. I know I usually don't really give a fuck about spoiling shit for y'all, but this one is one of those movies that the less you know about it going in, the better. The film adapts the true story of 4 young men who robbed the Transylvania University Library's rare book collection for almost no reason back in 2003. Director Bart Layton was just a documentary filmmaker when he initially heard about this incident, and he knew he had to find out more. Layton started by corresponding with the thieves who were all in prison at the time and learned each guy's side of the story separately before combining them into a unified script for the film. Now, how did he go about crafting this movie? Did he stick to the traditional informative documentary style with talking head interviews intercut with B-roll from the event solely based on the facts of the case? Or did he go the alternate route of adapting the emotional journey of the characters by recreating the events in a fictionalized context with a cast of hot, young, up-and-coming actors a la The Social Network? Well, this man took a look at the story and said, "Fuck it, I'm doing both." Yeah. This film actually combines factual accounts and interviews from the 4 perpetrators, along with the super slick cinematic filmmaking you'd expect to see in a true crime movie. I know, right? There's like a billion ways this could go wrong, but director Bart Layton keeps the film incredibly focused, and the angle he approaches it from is bolstered by the format rather than hindered. American Animals is a film where no 2 of the main characters 100% agree on what really happened. Thus, we have brilliant sequences like this, where we are shown the same event distorted by the memory of 2 distinct characters thinking back through a mind clouded with remorse.
I still don't understand how a book could be worth $12 million.
It's like if Picasso had a bunch of his paintings in a book.
When you say it's in the library, it's like what? Sitting on a shelf?
No, it's in the special collections room.
Which is what, like a vault?
More like a secure room with glass cases and stuff.
With guards on the doors and shit?
No, but obviously you can't just walk in there. Hey, pull in here.
Because there's security everywhere?
Not that I saw.
So this is how you remember it?
Not exactly. But if this is how Spencer remembers it, then let's go with it.
You see, what's special about this movie is that it's about a group of young men who decided to do something very dangerous and very illegal, with seemingly no reason. In typical crime movies, the characters are pushed to their limits and forced to turn to more unethical forms of business because there isn't really an option. Yet here, the characters are less driven out of desperation or malice, and more so motivated by the fear of mediocrity. The film even shows how at nearly every step of the way, each of these guys had a chance to just call it quits and yeet out before shit got too bad. But none of them did. These kids basically had their whole lives ahead of them, but still somehow decided that wasn't enough. Evan Peters' character Warren has a whole arc where he feels like life has done nothing but disappoint him, as if he was promised a more exciting and fulfilling goal that somehow dissipated the older he got.
To be honest, sir, I think this whole place is a disappointment. I think you're a disappointment. And I think this whole goddamn town is a disappointment.
Get out.
Spencer, on the other hand, Barry Cogan's character, is a painter, so his disappointingly empty life spurs him on in a different way. It's often said that art is the expression of life. So then it can be incorrectly assumed that one cannot make great art without first living a great life. This is precisely what weighs on Spencer as he grows to resent the benign nature of his existence and feels almost fraudulent at his attempts at art because of it. As an aspiring creative, this is something I could really relate to and yet almost never see touched on in movies about artists. Like, this mindset is a really common one for creators, but frankly, it's kind of problematic and can lead to some extremely unhealthy or even self-destructive behavior. Trust me, there's a reason the alcoholic writer trope is such a popular device. Anyway, this movie explores that and shows just what unchecked yearning for greater importance can do when you grow up watching too many heist movies. I think part of what I love about this movie is the fact that it basically comes right out and says, yeah, pulling off crimes like in the movies is dope as shit, and of course you would rather do that than return to your monotonous routine called life. But real life ain't like the movies, baby. Like, shit gets way out of hand and really fucking dark, and the movie doesn't shy away from it at all. Now, Bart Layton cited Dog Day Afternoon as a major inspiration for the piece. And for those of you who don't know, that is a 1975 movie by legendary director Sidney Lumet starring Al Pacino about basically the worst bank robbery ever committed. At every step of the way, anything that can go wrong does, and the scenario escalates to a full-on hostage situation complete with massive crowds, SWAT teams, and a fucking jumbo jet. The movie is a fucking master class in escalation and filmmaking, and I've never felt more engaged in a heist sequence. That was until I saw American Animals. Like, holy fuck, this sequence actually makes me sick every time I watch it. The heist sequences are intense in a refreshingly realistic way. This is only helped by the fact that we have actual interviews from the characters and involved parties looking back on the event with disdain. Remember how I told you this guy wrote the script based off of corresponding with the crew? Well, turns out he had to completely rewrite on the fly, as when he actually interviewed people, they weren't entirely comfortable verbalizing the things they said in those letters. In each interview, you can feel the pain and trauma their actions have caused, which makes the heist a bajillion times harder to watch, and of course this is only helped by the stellar performances from the young cast. Like, there's barely any violence, no gore, and not a single set piece in this movie. But it's almost because of that the weight of their actions hits so hard. This movie gives you that shitty feeling in the pit of your stomach that you get when you know you're breaking every rule, and it makes you sit with it, just like the characters were forced to for years in prison. Like, fuck! Why can't more movies make shit like this feel so heavy? People always come swinging with that bullshit argument that, oh, we're desensitized to violence and explosions, so nothing affects us anymore. But this film literally proves the opposite. Now, granted, American Animals does have the added bonus of knowing this shit actually happened, which is kind of cheating, but I mean, it's so fucking good that no one should care, and if you do, you're a pussy. Anyway, the movie goes on to show how everything unravels after the heist, as each crew member starts losing their control and getting sloppy under pressure. We even see how they all blame one another for their mistakes, yet ultimately don't part as friends at all. And yes, I know this has been done in a bajillion different crime movies, but the way this story builds these real characters, you can't help but feel the same regret and anxiety that the boys do. Ultimately, while each of these guys did their time and eventually agreed to the movie, you can clearly see how each of them has reacted very differently to the trauma. The movie even goes back and takes a look at earlier scenes to show how certain characters' perspectives have changed in retrospect, and how maybe the seeds for their failure were planted from the get-go. Now, that's probably all I'm going to say about this movie for now, because I really think it's worth a watch and don't want to spoil too much else. But I'm fucking serious. If you're watching this video right now and haven't seen American Animals for some reason, then you better hop on that shit right now! I cannot recommend this movie enough, especially in that 18 to 25 middle-class suburban kid demographic I seem to find myself surrounded by. Anyway, watch that shit, tell your friends about it, maybe even replace that basic-ass Pulp Fiction poster on your wall. Okay, if y'all don't end up watching this movie, then at least throw on the soundtrack on your way to work tomorrow, cause that shit motherfucking slaps. Just be sure when you're done to come back to this video and join the discussion. Or just like and subscribe, I guess. Jesus, this fucking YouTube shit is harder than it looks. I could literally pitch the franchise to overtake Star Wars and no one would fucking listen. Or would they? Yeah, probably not. Anyway, comment below what type of shit y'all want me to cover, and if it's as dead as a thread as the last video, then I'll probably just fucking do it. That is, unless it's a shit idea. Then I'll make a whole video telling you why your video idea is shit and no one would watch it. Till then, watch American Animals, like this video, subscribe, and more importantly, tweet rude things at MoviePass for fucking up so bad. Just kidding, don't actually tweet them rude shit. I don't know the legal ramifications of me telling you to do that, and I don't want to end up in prison like Spencer and the boys.